So Clair Obscur Expedition 33 has already swept up a ton of awards and is probably going to continue doing so, with many more Game of the Year awards coming in later months. And you know what? Deservedly so. It's one of the greatest RPGs of the year, or really any year. It's a phenomenal achievement from developer Sandful Interactive, fusing a fiendishly addictive combat system with captivating storytelling and characters that you can't help but fall in love with. But here's the thing, you've probably already completed it by now, and eventually when you do play it, you will complete it and you'll be looking for something else. So that's why we're here today, to give you some other games that are kind of like Clair Obscur Expedition 33 that you need to play right now, or at least straight after you finish that game. Number 10, Lost Odyssey. One of the most criminally underappreciated games of the entire PS360 era, and one that's desperately in need of a remaster, Lost Odyssey is a game without which Expedition 33 simply wouldn't exist, or at least not as we know it. You see, game director Guillaume Broch has loudly sung the 2007 Xbox 360 exclusive's praises at every opportunity, citing its visuals, dark tone, and emotional storytelling as having a tremendous influence on his own game. And boy, it sure is obvious from playing them both side by side. Beyond the aforementioned points, Lost Odyssey's timing-based aim ring combat system, array of customization options, and mature, character-driven examination of mortality feel like a blueprint for what Sandful pulled off almost 20 years later. If you loved Expedition 33, and if you're watching this, you almost certainly did, you owe it to yourself to play the game that feels like its spiritual forebear in almost every sense. And for the love of God, Microsoft, just remaster this bloody thing already. Number 9, Final Fantasy X and X-2 Remastered. It's not an uncommon opinion that Expedition 33 is a better Final Fantasy game than most recent Final Fantasy games, and Sandful Interactive has freely admitted that their game is heavily inspired by Final Fantasy X in particular. The first Final Fantasy game with full 3D environments and voice acting, Final Fantasy X was a watershed entry for the series. Like Expedition 33, it focuses on a group of heroes effectively embarking on a suicide mission to try and save the world, with snappy turn-based combat, well-drawn characters, and an ethereal, iconic soundtrack. Now, we could go further to discuss the spoilery reasons why Expedition 33 obviously took notes from Final Fantasy X, though if you haven't played it for yourself yet, it'd be criminal to give those surprises away. The gorgeous HD remaster of Final Fantasy X typically comes bundled with Final Fantasy X-2, which, while being more of a curious B-side than a generational banger, is still worth checking out for its campier tone, fantastic combat, and incredibly catchy soundtrack.
Hey guys, it's time to talk about today's video sponsor. No one, actually. It's just us at the FGS channel here. Just asking you to take some time out of your day to subscribe to this wonderful channel. And I'm also just going to say, now we can all just laugh at the people who skipped forward a couple of minutes there because they thought I was going to do an actual ad read, and there isn't one. So yeah, they've just now come back to find me making fun of them. Enjoy that. Bonus content. There's more of that if you subscribe.
Number 8, Lies of P. Lies of P may be a card-carrying Souls-like, while Expedition 33 categorically isn't, but the two do share one noticeable kinship, and that is that their settings are both inspired from the Belle Epoque era. Now, the Belle Epoque is a period of French history spanning the late 19th and early 20th century, defined by enlightenment, prosperity, and innovation for the nation, where art and culture freely flourished. The era's unique aesthetic has rarely been exploited in video games, so it was certainly interesting to see two games released barely 18 months apart that both make such inspired use of it. Lies of P's central city is a lavish expression of the Belle Epoque's aesthetic sensibilities, and Sandful Interactive was so impressed with this during Expedition 33's development that it motivated them to refine their own work. Again, the two games are very, very different, with Lies of P being a considerably more challenging affair, albeit both centered around reflex-driven combat. But if the lush architecture throughout Expedition 33 left you hankering for more, this is well worth a try. Number 7, Child of Light. Considering that Sandful Interactive was founded by ex-Ubisoft developers, it's rather fitting that it feels influenced by one of their most underappreciated gemstones in Ubisoft's own back catalogue. And here we're talking about Child of Light, a beautiful 2014 platforming RPG that takes place in the painterly fantasy land of Lemuria, where a child is tasked with retrieving the sun, moon, and stars from the all-powerful Queen of the Night. Thematically, Child of Light wrestles with many of the same themes as Expedition 33, especially especially mortality and family, and similarly throws players into a gorgeously dreamlike world where they partake in turn-based combat. Both games have a distinctly dark fairy tale vibe about them, using a heightened sense of style to chew through universal aspects of the human condition. Expedition 33 is certainly far more dense where storytelling and characters are concerned, but it's easy to see these two games as spiritual cousins at the very least. Number 6. Persona 5 Royale. Now, it's almost hilarious how many cues Expedition 33's battle interface draws from Persona 5, a game well noted for its extremely distinctive menu design, achieving a masterful fusion of functionality and artistry. Similarly, Expedition 33 ditches the bog-standard text-based menus in favor of more dynamic, visually striking ones that are actively integrated into the overall gameplay aesthetic. The team loudly praised Persona 5's UI as the best in gaming, so it kind of tracks that they made little attempt to hide their influences here. The game's director also commended Persona 5's cinematic camera movements during battle, which he incorporated into Expedition 33. While the games certainly differ starkly in other areas, they do nevertheless serve up not dissimilar turn-based combat with an emphasis on fostering synergistic relationships between party members. In this case, Expedition 33 basically borrowed from the best and boldly dared to arguably do it even better. Number 5. Legend of Dragoon. An oldie but a goodie now, with 1999's legendary PS1 RPG The Legend of Dragoon, which has such obvious mechanical similarities to Expedition 33 that the latter basically just feels like a modern refinement of it. The story is superficially similar, following a group of warriors trying to prevent the end of the world, but the battle system is where the games actually feel most alike. You see, The Legend of Dragoon was massively ahead of its time when it introduced additions, which were timed button presses that could be used to augment the impact of your attacks, which is not unlike the similar QTE-style attack buffs in Expedition 33. It marked a clear attempt by Sony to do something different with the typical stodgy turn-based RPG combat of the era, though many more years would pass before RPGs en masse began incorporating it. While critics of the time derisively compared The Legend of Dragoon to the Final Fantasy series, time has been definitely kinder to its rep, and today it often tops lists of the most underrated RPGs ever made, and you know what? Rightly bloody so. Number 4. Okami HD. Expedition 33 isn't just a game about a humanity-culling entity called the Paintress, it's also a game whose art style itself is a painterly rendition of the Belle Epoque era, and the only other RPG to be quite so obsessed with paint is surely Okami, which is presented in a beautiful watercolor style inspired by Japanese ink wash painting. More to the point, painting is an actual mechanic in the game itself, as players can use a brush to paint on the screen and attack enemies, solve environmental puzzles, and so on. Sure, Expedition 33 doesn't go quite that wild and literal with it, but they're clearly both deeply invested in the notion of art's transformative power, both in terms of their stories and how impactfully they resonated with the players en masse. Though Okami was originally a commercial flop, the HD remaster sold considerably better, enough that Okami 2 was unexpectedly announced at 2024's Game Awards. Number 3. Yakuza Like a Dragon. Now, nobody's going to try and pretend that Yakuza Like a Dragon is anything like Expedition 33 on a tonal level. I mean, after all, the series' signature fusion of melodramatic crime drama hooey with goofy, surreal comedy couldn't be more vibes divorced from it. But Like a Dragon was an especially important entry in the franchise as it marked the switch from real-time brawler to turn-based RPG. It was a controversial choice at the time, albeit one that was absolutely vindicated by the glorious end result. And a few facets of Expedition 33's combat are reminiscent of Like a Dragon, especially the ability to dodge and block with well-timed button presses, and the inclusion of basic quick-time events to enhance your damage. Again, they're distinct games in their own ways, but the DNA of their combat is more alike than it first seems, from the defense and attack mechanics to the eye-popping flashiness of their menu systems. Number 2. Live Alive. Now, Live Alive was originally released by Square Enix all the way back in 1994, though enjoyed something of a resurgence with its 2022 Nintendo Switch remake, which, if you haven't played it, well, you are missing out. Though different from Expedition 33 in many ways, Live Alive is similarly a turn-based RPG with a striking art style in which a band of heroes stare down an apocalyptic entity with a setting inspired by real-world history. Now, Live Alive's big hook is that players take control of 8 different protagonists, each taking part in their own distinct genre-bending stories, ranging from medieval fantasy to sci-fi and even a western, before they then converge for a final endgame chapter. These first 8 chapters can be played in any order, ensuring that no 2 players are likely to have the exact same experience. And just like Expedition 33, it's an RPG that's also refreshingly respectful of your time, given that it can normally be beaten in less than 25 hours. And number 1, Nier Automata, potato patata. And finally, we have Nier Automata, potato patata, a game whose own own solemn operatic tone and general meditation on life and death feels wholly of a piece with Expedition 33. There's an intoxicating fog of mystery throughout both games, and while their gameplay is actually quite different in terms of their tone and overall emotionality, they feel inexplicably linked. This is especially wrought through their similarly haunting musical scores, and Expedition 33's Nevron enemies don't exactly feel a million miles away from Nier Automata's machine foes. Furthermore, Sandfall has directly cited the Nier franchise as influencing its combat, with the team studying the way in which Nier rewards players for learning an enemy's attack timings, weaknesses, and so on. And above all else, Nier Automata is a truly singular, ambitious work of art just like Expedition 33, and though many assured that it would flop on launch, it's sold an astonishing 9 million copies worldwide as of 2025. Expedition is no slouch either, having shifted more than 5 million units within barely 6 months of release. And there we go, my friends. Those are the top 10 games like Clair Obscur Expedition 33 you need to play right now. Hope you enjoyed that, and let me know what you thought about it down in the comments section below. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me over on Instagram and Blue Sky, where I'm at RetroJ, but the O is a 0, and I hope to speak to you soon. Catch you later, my friends. Bye-bye.